Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast and Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to Game Week 23. My name is Fergie, and I'm here with record-breaking FPL manager Rich Clarke, who after a slump seems to be back in the mix. Rich, how are you, and what colour was your arrow? What colour is your arrow so far in Game Week 22?
Hi Fergie, hi everyone, and going well. Having a good game week, and not over yet. Got to defend against Areola and Bowen tonight, but 64 points I think with a Solanke to go.
64.
So looking good. Got the captaincy right with Alvarez. Didn't buy Haaland, didn't buy De Bruyne. Trusted that Alvarez would get the game and get the start, and that seems to have come off. And also my transfer of Jota paid back straight away, and looking good. So I'm quite pleased with how things have gone in the last couple of weeks. Halved my rank in the last couple of weeks, so it's going well. So long may it continue.
Really good work, Rich. Everyone was right, wasn't they? We had all the fish analogies last week, saying you're like a salmon rising from the water. You're like the shark waiting to pounce sort of thing. So, yeah, absolutely. Well done, mate. This week, we're also joined by the wonderful big man Bakar, who is also flying high. Bakar, how are you? And what colour is your arrow so far this week?
Thanks for having me, Fergie. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. It was green. Luckily enough, I captained Alvarez, and he was sort of the big reason behind my green arrow. I mean, my smile is almost as wide as Rich's earlier on, and it's not difficult to spot. I mean, I'm absolutely chuffed to bits, to be very honest. Given the fact that the rank rise was significant, I've now moved on to nearly 60k with Areola and Solanke to go. I had 62 points this week. And in the previous 15 game weeks, I've had 14 green arrows. So I'm sort of going through a dream run in FPL. And I'm just hoping long may it continue.
Well played, Bakar. Superb stuff. Yeah, the Alvarez captaincy was massive, wasn't it? And Richarlison as well. Still 2 to play, top 10k in sight with the all the chips to play over the next few weeks. Looking forward to getting all your insights on your chip strategy in a bit, Bakar, as well. A comment from FPL Copycat in the chat. Like krill being eaten by a whale as well, Rich. I like that. If you have any more fish analogies for how Rich is just going to swallow everyone up, please carry on sending them in. Very well played, Bakar. I'm on a red arrow so far, but I did bring in Julian Alvarez, which was a very unpopular move. Unpopular in terms of the direction of traffic, in terms of Man City players, but unpopular in my chat groups and everything else. But I just wanted a bit of coverage, and shout out to Lazy FPL, who tweeted out that they didn't think that Haaland, they'd heard that Haaland wasn't going to start, and that kind of made my decision. I was an hour anyway. That made my decision for me, so I brought him in. I did captain Foden, and maybe if I'd have given it more thought, I'd probably gone for Alvarez, because one of the reasons for it was with De Bruyne back, I thought it would actually benefit Alvarez. I thought Alvarez would get kind of 70, 80 minutes, got the 2 goals early. Very nice. So only 46 points so far, but I do have Areola, Bowen and Solanke still to play. So if things go okay, I could end up with a decent score and potentially a green arrow.
Can you believe that Alvarez dropped in price last night after scoring a brace against?
Price, no way! I brought someone in who dropped the same day. He dropped in price,
and he scores a brace.
Yeah,
listen, only this game could do that.
Yeah, we're gonna have a chat about Man City, because I don't know about you guys, but my perception on Man City assets from only a couple of days ago have potentially not massively changed, but I think we were fairly set on who the best 3 were. But I don't know. I think some things potentially change, but interesting stuff. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Todd Kirschker first in, just a dad posting stuff. Ron Espeseth, I'm 1974, says, what's all this Walkergate stuff that other channels are implicating Hub content creators in? We'll touch on that in a little bit, but yeah, it was a bit of a storm in a teacup. Gianni Kalioski, it's probably Jan. He's not Gianni, is it? He's not Italian with a name like that. Jan Kalioski is in. Sokan is in. Brandon Ong, Simon Fairweather, Chris Liverpool, FPL Gold Colazzo, FPL Copycat, Blessed Asiri, Bryn Roberts, and so many more. Thank you so much for joining us as we look ahead to Game Week 23. So just brought up Ben Krellin's fixture planner that we had on Tuesday. Obviously blanked out the Game Week 22 fixtures now as we just look ahead to Game Week 23 onwards. And the reason I wanted to show this still ahead of kind of using the hub tickers, it still has got that Luton and Liverpool potential or likely double game week in. According to Ben on Tuesday, he was 90% certain it would go in to game week 25. Now, obviously, the longer the week has gone on, I think Ben, is fair to say, was reasonably certain it would happen kind of earlier this week. It hasn't happened yet. I did message him earlier, actually, spoke to him really briefly, and exclusively his kind of up-to-date sort of odds on it are that he's still very confident it will be a double game week. He thinks it's probably roughly down to 75% chance now, but he's still very confident. He also says, actually, let me actually read it out rather than paraphrase, because I want to get it right. He also says that James from Planet FPL said he was 90% sure 7 hours ago, and that percentage would drop by 2% every hour. So yeah, so he's around 75% now. He says, I'm still pretty confident it will move, but if it isn't announced tomorrow, then it probably won't happen. So that is Ben's take.
I don't know if you saw, something earlier came out that said, again, this is amazing how good our inside information gets, but apparently the Liverpool Anfield have suspended booking stadium tours on Wednesday, the 21st of February. Did you see that tweet?
I have, and I've actually checked it, and they're correct.
Yeah.
I tried to book a tour and it wouldn't let me.
We are. So there's a hint that even pre-announcement it should be on that date. So there we go. Just hang. I think by the end of tomorrow we should know.
I think so. Bakar, we haven't heard of you obviously since the announcement. Since the results of the FA Cup fourth round, since the draw for the fifth round, since we've had this massive chat around kind of likelihoods and doubles, chip strategy. We had a big chat with Ben around chip strategy on Tuesday. Very, very eager and keen to get your take, your rough plan, your strategy. Talk us through it.
I think my triple captain is likely to be played in 25. I think that's something which is almost certainly going to happen if Erling Haaland stays fit, given the fixtures for Manchester City, Brentford and Chelsea at home. I think they're as good as fixtures as you can pass up. I mean, you can sort of argue now that Chelsea at home is arguably better than Brentford at home, given the kind of form Chelsea are in. But I think I'm not exactly sure which way I'll go with the free hit. I think my free hit strategy is heavily dependent on which way the Chelsea-Villa game goes. Let's say if Chelsea win, then Chelsea versus Arsenal in Game Week 29 is going to be a blank, and I have a lot of players from those fixtures. I have triple Arsenal, Gabriel, Saliba, and Saka, and I have Palmer from Chelsea. And I already have a lot of blankers in 29. So let's say if the Arsenal-Chelsea game is called off in 29, that is if Chelsea win, then I will find it very hard to avoid the free hit. I think I will almost be forced into free hitting in 29, even though it sort of appears to be low upside because there are not too many fixtures on paper. And because I say it's a low upside game week, I would ideally want to play it either in game week 34 or 37, probably in 34, because 37 is likely to be the bigger double for the bench boost. Yep. So I think, I'll be making a conscious effort to save the free hit till the double game weeks in 34 or 37. But let's say if Arsenal Chelsea is a blank in 29, then my hand will be forced, and I don't think I'll be left with any other option but to free hit.
Yeah.
In which case, I think I'll wildcard in 30. Now, again, my second wildcard is also contingent on the timing of the free hit. Let's say if I free hit in 29, then I can sort of hold my wildcard till later, because then I can sort of aim to wildcard around 33. But let's say if I don't free hit in 29 and I dead end my team into 29 and buy players from the likes of Brentford, Burnley, all these lesser teams, then I'll look to wildcard in game week 30, because my team will basically not consist of the players from the better teams. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So let's say if I free hit 29, it's going to be wildcard later around 32, 33. If I don't free hit 29, then it's likely going to be a wildcard 30 or 31.
Really interesting stuff. Just while we're touching on Liverpool, Salah, I'm not sure if it was on his Instagram or something, but he kind of showed that he's running on grass, and everyone loves the on grass sort of thing. Rich,
yes, but
go on.
I actually want to touch upon this because I mean we saw Trent running on grass 2 weeks ago, and he's yet to play a football match. I mean, I don't know why I don't know why people get a hard on when they see someone running
Get a
on
what,
grass, on grass.
Yeah,
agree.
no, it's crazy.
Agree with that. You see it. You see it all. He could have been walking. He could have been doing the slowest jog. He could have just been, just kind of limbering out.
It is quite encouraging, though. It's better. It's more encouraging than seeing him walking around in a ski boot, isn't it? And actually, saying that he's, nowhere near, even being able to walk. I wouldn't be surprised if he is a possibility to play in game week 24. And certainly that does lead into, immediate thinking with, say, rolling a transfer and keeping funds back to be able to somehow get him in with Haaland, because I haven't got Haaland yet. So I do think, if both of those two are available for 25, you want them really, don't you? So
what are your guys' thoughts on kind of holding money back for obviously Haaland? I'm still not convinced I'm bringing him in this week, personally, just because, again, I don't think he gets 90. I don't think it's the easiest fixture. I think there are the captaincy options. But Haaland and Salah could be, especially ahead of 25, right? Even 24 with Salah home to Burnley and Man City home to Everton before doubles. What's your thing? Are you going to be flexible and kind of hold the money back and kind of wait, or are you still convinced that I don't know, Jota and Darwin or and Trent, for example, can cover Salah's points in the double? What's your thinking around that?
I've sort of made peace with not having Salah till at least game week 24 and possibly even game week 25, because I already have Trent in my team. I'll almost certainly have Haaland for game week 25. I have Foden, Saka, all these guys they're sort of serving me well, and Watkins as well. And I don't think he's going to go anywhere from my team. So it's sort of tricky in my position trying to force Salah in my team, because I think it'll come at a big cost, and I'm not really sure whether it's worth doing the surgery, because I'm not going to be captaining Salah in 25 anyway if Haaland is fit. So it would take something remarkable for me to sort of go back to Salah, having just gotten rid of him. Because even let's say if he was declared fit for game week 25, he could see limited minutes in at least one of those two fixtures. You need to understand that the Liverpool-Luton game, which is the easier game, Liverpool versus Luton at Anfield, is just 3 days before the Carabao final.
Yeah. Good point.
It could see his minutes being limited. Do I really want to just commit major surgery in my team and take hits left, right, and center to accommodate that one player who I won't captain and who I won't even know will play? I'm not sure I want to do it. But yeah, I mean, like Rich said, I won't be too surprised if he was fit for 24. But I think if let's say Liverpool are looking like the team to buy in 24, and if they do have the double like our fixture experts are suggesting, then I mean, there are other routes. I'll probably buy Darwin. I already have Trent. I'll possibly then look at Jota as well. But Salah is not exactly front and center in my plans right now.
Rich, thoughts on Trent?
Yeah,
for Trent owners.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've got 10.6 million in the bank. It's probably the most I've ever had in the bank, in years of playing this game. So if we, I'm thinking of rolling this week just to give me the flexibility, because we haven't really mentioned it, but there's a very, that cup replay between Villa and Chelsea is very important, and the outcome of it will help you with, which player to sell for, a premium, basically. So if you don't bring Haaland this week, and my personal opinion is I didn't think he looked very fit, and I thought he looked really rusty last night. He had a real swing and a miss, didn't he? And anyone can do that, but he did look a bit off it. So I'm not scared of not owning him this weekend. And I'd probably value the rolled transfer and the information post that Villa Chelsea replay, because if then you add to that Salah returning for 24, then with 2 free transfers, I can do Saka to Salah and Watkins to Haaland and have them both for free for the double and game week 24.
Yeah.
So they're getting that block of 3 games each. You've got both premiums. It hasn't cost you a hit, and not many will be able to do that. Some will be able to, but I just think I would just do it because I'd feel better about the upcoming 3 games for those teams. Now, obviously, I'm selling Saka and I'm selling Watkins, who are both great players with great fixtures. So you've got to make a sacrifice somewhere to bring those 2 guys in. However, they are an upgrade on Saka and Watkins. So yeah, that's just probably the way I will play it because I can. You asked me about Trent. If I don't get Salah, I can do Haaland, and I've got a defender slot that I need to upgrade, and it will either be, and we'll get on to Kyle Walker in a minute, but it would either be to get a City defender or to bring Trent back for the double. So he is in my plans, but I would favour going for Salah over Trent, in which case I would get a cheaper defender than Trent if I bought Salah.
Interesting stuff, gents. Yeah, it's very intricate, and there's a lot of what ifs with everything, which is I think it's brilliant for engaged managers because late transfers, lots of planning, lots of having your flow sort of diagrams in place. Is this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this. Finger on the pulse in terms of injuries, leaks, and things like that. So I think for engaged managers, it's a really good time of the year to really maximize and kind of leap over the casuals who
Yes, and Fergie, I'd sort of like to touch upon this as well, because while a lot of us are sort of looking at buying as many double game weekers as possible, there's a game week 26 blank to navigate as well, which is going to prove very tricky. I mean, if you buy a 13 million Salah, I mean, hiding him on the bench will be tricky in game week 26. I mean, Watkins and Saka, I see a lot of people are looking to sell them. I'm not entirely sure I buy that because, I mean, Watkins is Arsenal's most nailed attacker on penalties. And if Villa end up beating Chelsea, which they're expected to in the cup, then Arsenal won't blank in 29 and they're not blanking in 26 and they have a good run of fixtures. So I don't think Saka is a sell. I think he's a good hold actually. And with Watkins, it's similar actually because Villa have a very good run of fixtures from now on in. So selling Watkins and Saka, either of them is sort of
you might get a tell on selling one of them. That's the thing, is that selling both.
It's sort of fraught with risk. I sort of prefer getting Trent. Let's say I think a lot of people are in this position where they've sold Salah or they've sold Trent. I think if you're in that position, I would rather buy Trent because there are not as many appealing defenders in the game right now at the moment. And I think Trent is one of them now with Liverpool's double and the Burnley fixture. I think he has massive haul potential. While even when you look at the City defenders, I mean, I'm not even sure anyone is an option there because, I mean, Walker, he could easily miss a game here or there. I'm not even sure whether he's sort of worth the rotation with sort of now De Bruyne coming in. There's an argument to triple up on the City attack. So if you're looking to spend that much on a premium, then there's an argument for tripling up on the City defense, City attack, as opposed to sort of going with someone like a Salah. Just a lot of ifs and buts when it comes to double game week 25 planning, because you have to ensure that you are making optimal decisions not only for 25 but also game week 26 and for the blank double game week 29.
Very valid.
Blank game week 29.
You need to count. You're not carrying too many forward, because if you're carrying more than 4, you've got to hit them out, haven't you? Theoretically, but then you can, that game week 25 week is arguably the week to take some cheaper hits. I'm not saying they're free, but if you are making readjustments to your team and you're bringing in game week 29 confirmed players, which we'll know more about after the replays, you can bring an Ivan Toney who gets 2 extra games, for instance, in game week 25, covers 29 as well as having a double. It's definitely a week to take the -4s or -8s in that week if your players that you buy have extra games, and there aren't that many times that season that those cheap hits will be available. So it's best to get the information first after the replays, and then if you're ditching Watkins, he doesn't play 29, or if he does play 29, you hold onto him and you ditch Saka because he doesn't play 29, for instance. It's just that extra information will help you be more assured about your chip strategy and your 29 potential. So it is really interesting. It's a really interesting time, and therefore being gung-ho with transfers this weekend perhaps isn't the best idea.
Good chat, chaps. Looking ahead then to this coming week, Man City. Bakar, what did you make of how Man City lined up last night, mainly in attack, and who are your top 3 Man City assets moving forward in order?
It's tricky to say. I think Haaland is almost certainly one.
Yeah.
The other two, I mean, I think a lot of people have at least one of Foden or De Bruyne. I think Foden is very, very highly owned, actually. And I think I would still sort of prefer him over De Bruyne because of his price. I would like to make a decision on De Bruyne closer to Gameweek 25, ideally closer to the double, because let's say I want to see him play back-to-back games. I haven't seen that for a while, and I'm not entirely sure about his fitness to be entirely confident of him starting both games in the double. So I want to wait and see before I go there. But yes, it looks like triple attack is possibly the way to go for most teams, but I'm not entirely sure whether I'll be able to afford that in mind, which is why I might. The best way of choosing the triple city is to pick your combination right before the double gaming rather than speculate right now, because to be very honest, every single week we can ask ourselves the same question, and every single week our answers could be different. So I think the best time to actually analyze this is before Gaming 25.
Yeah, really good answer. And very fair. Rich, have your thoughts changed at all after last night at all? Okay, we've so on Fantasy Football Hub on the points predictions on the expected minutes, we've reduced Alvarez and Foden's minutes down now to 70. I think Alvarez was on 89 and Foden was on like 85 based on an average, over the past few games or whatever else. But we've bumped them down to 70. And actually changed my transfer recommendation, which I'll touch on later on Fantasy Football Hub. But do you think those minutes are fair? And as an Alvarez owner, what's your thoughts on Alvarez over the next few games?
Well, I think I was pretty much preparing to sell him possibly this week we're in now or this coming weekend. But having just scored a brace, played very well, come off, with a few minutes to spare, and also Haaland, not really looking that impressive and that fit to, that nailed on to start. There will be lots of different narratives. Some people saying he'll definitely start at the weekend, and others will say he's going to get another bench appearance. I mean, I don't know. He could start, but it doesn't necessarily mean Alvarez gets dropped.
Exactly.
Nobody knows that he won't start along with Haaland. But yes, I do agree that you should drop his expected minutes down. But I'd be quite happy to have, if it's 140 minutes out of the double or even 120 minutes for Alvarez in the double game week, surely that's got to be worth considering keeping him now, and that you get your triple up with Foden, Alvarez, and Haaland instead, and you sell Solanke in game week 25 for one of them or something. So there's definitely ways to do it that don't involve KDB. And I'm certainly considering playing Alvarez against Brentford and just rolling the transfer just because of the value of that information next week. Otherwise, I'll have to sell Solanke when he's got Forest at home, or Watkins when he's away to Sheffield United, or Alvarez, who look what happened to the people who sold Alvarez this week. I don't want to repeat that. Yeah. So I think it's a really good week to roll because I've got a bench headache anyway.
Interesting. Just a touch on Kyle Walker. So he started every single game this season, and I think he also started the last 7 or 8 games last season. So he started about like the last between 25 and 30 matches for Man City in the league. He's also played most of the matches in the cup and things as well. Obviously, he was rested, and there was a bit of a bit of a to-do on Monday evening, because a handful of pretty high-profile content creators got wind that Walker was going to be benched. Now, apparently, we have to take this at face value. They received the information with like 4 or 5 minutes before the deadline. Their source said, please don't share, and they made the decision to bench Walker and play whoever it was, their first bench, kind of Gabriel maybe, or Palmer, or kind of whoever it was. Yeah, and there's a couple of knobheads on Twitter tried to call out a Fantasy Football Hub conspiracy. So for you guys, I can't use expletives, but just get a life. Get a life, I suppose I suppose is my message. But yeah, don't want to kind of dwell on it at all. But brief thoughts, chaps. I think for me, just quickly, 5 minutes before the deadline, asked not to share, acted on it. I haven't got a problem with it.
I haven't got a problem with the individuals who got the information. If somebody offered me that information with 5 minutes to go, would I change my team and sub and bench the guy I had in my team? Yeah, I probably would, if I trusted the source, and if I thought it was, but I wouldn't really have time apart from changing my team around to then prepare a tweet, or then prepare something that shared it with everybody. So I don't think we can go after the individuals that got the information, but I can understand the reaction across the community, where if there is a closed group of users that are going to continue to get team leaks, and that information is being controlled to a chosen few, I could understand why people would think that isn't really fair. But I don't think there's anything anyone can do about it.
No.
Unless they change the rules to first kickoff again, which we keep on saying they should.
Got any thoughts at all, or no?
I personally don't mind it. I mean, if anyone has information, he has every right to share it with the people of his choice, and they have every right to act upon it. I mean, I didn't know of the information personally, but if 4 or 5 people had that info and they acted on it, and they were only shared the info with the promise that they should keep it to themselves, and I don't think anyone else should have a problem, because it was according to the wish of the person who actually had that news in the first place. So I don't necessarily think this is that big of an issue, and I really don't see why it's getting so much traction on social media. I honestly, it's a storm in a teacup, and I think it'll die down soon.
It was similar to the Gabriel thing and Saliba at the game week 1, wasn't it? I was listening to the wrong stream, and it came out on another stream, but it didn't come out on the stream I was listening to. So I was engaged. I was looking for the information right up to the deadline. I just didn't receive the information. So I didn't bring in Saliba. I think those that got the information, and it was much more widely available than this, did act on it. But it still left a fairly sour taste in the mouth of all the people that didn't get the information. So it just reminded everybody of this occasional fact that some people will sometimes get some information and it won't reach everybody. There's not much we can do about it.
Interesting comment. FPL Copycat says, forget about the leaks. What about the Haaland price rise out of the blue? I would argue
about 70,000 now after 2.5 million.
That was
sales.
farcical.
Well,
that was farcical.
It is farcical, but I would also say that FPL statistics had him at 36% to rise with a couple of hours to go. Fantasy Football Fix had him at minus 125. They predicted him to drop. Fantasy Football Hub predicted him to rise, and he rose. So for anyone who doesn't use our price rise tool, it is the best. Go to Fantasy Football Hub. .co.uk, price change, predicted price changes, proof in the pudding there. We predicted all of Haaland, De Bruyne and Walker all to rise. Whether you like the algorithm or not, we're the closest, and that is facts. Anyway, let's move on to game week 23.
Fergie.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, I'd actually like to address Rich's point regarding Alvarez earlier, the one where
please.
He was discussing the strikers. I think we need to talk about Haaland slightly in more detail. I think with Alvarez, I wouldn't necessarily compare the fixture he had this week, where he was playing as the number 9 with potential penalties as the striker, to the fixture against Brentford. Now, Brentford are a very physical side, and at home they're a very tough opponent. And Pep has been very, very complimentary about Brentford in the past, saying that it's one of the toughest teams that he's played against. They're very physical, and I think it's a matchup that is likely to suit Haaland. I think Alvarez could start. I'm not sure whether he will, but even if he does start, he's going to start as the number 8, where his threat is significantly lower than it is when he's playing as a number 9 with penalties. Now with De Bruyne playing as well, I am not even sure whether Alvarez will be on set pieces. So I think it's an okay week to sell Alvarez. I have Alvarez and I'm okay selling him. I just won't keep him because of the fact that he's done well with me. It was a nice parting gift. Thank him for that. But I think he's an easy sell. To be very honest,
Wow.
I think it's a
Okay.
it's a much more difficult sell for people who have Solanke, Watkins, and Darwin. And I see a lot of people selling those 3 to buy Haaland. And I'm not sure whether I like that because, I mean, Solanke is forced at home this week. Then he has Fulham away. His fixtures are great. He could have a double in 27 or 28. And he's very cheap. Now, Watkins as well has Sheffield United this week. He's a borderline captaincy candidate. He has a great run of fixtures. He's not blanking at least until game week 28. He's not exactly hard sell either. Same with Darwin. Darwin could potentially have a double in 25 and has Burnley at home in 24, where he is possibly one of the strongest captaincy shouts. So I do get the appeal of buying Haaland, but it depends on who you're selling. If you're selling someone like Alvarez or a cheap third striker like Archer or Sula or someone like that, and you have money in the bank to upgrade, I think by all means you should do it. But if you have Watkins, Solanke, then it's trickier. And I think a lot of this decision depends about on your perception of who's the best captain.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not personally convinced that Haaland is the best captaincy shout. It's close.
Agree.
I think it's fairly close between him, Watkins, and Solanke. I think those are the 3 that realistically I'm considering for my own team. So yeah, I mean, if you think that Haaland is the best captaincy shout, then by all means get him. But if you don't, then I'm not so sure it's a very easy decision for someone who doesn't have Alvarez or a cheaper third striker.
I can't believe, Bakar, you just you just put Alvarez in the same bucket as Cameron Archer and the 3 and cheap strikers, considering his performance.
I mean, with the big boys back for City, I mean, I see the argument of selling Alvarez. I think he's past the sell by date.
Past his sell by date.
Okay.
He's hang on a minute, Bakar. I have to. He's the most decorated player in world football this year. He's had a marvelous season. He's played nearly every minute this season, and he just banged 2 in last night.
I think Foden's more likely to be benched than Alvarez this weekend, to be honest. That's the one. If I'm thinking about it, because I've got a massive bench headache when you see my team later, I think I might bench Foden.
I am benching Foden.
Yeah.
I am benching Foden as well.
Yeah,
but again, irrespective, let's say even if Alvarez is playing with De Bruyne and Haaland playing, I don't think his threat is as significant without him being on set pieces and penalties and without him being the striker.
No, fair.
Wow, really, really interesting. Yeah, good stuff on the Haalands. I think for what it's worth with me, I think if we think about how the match will go, the match last night kind of went, for me, minutes wise, as I kind of expected. I expected De Bruyne to start. I expected De Bruyne to get 60, 70 minutes. I expected Haaland to basically come off for De Bruyne kind of roughly the same time. I expected Alvarez and Foden to have kind of 75, 80 minutes that they had most of the season. And if I think about how I think that match will go next week, I think Haaland may start. I don't think he gets 90 minutes against Brentford, who are a very physical, hard-working, pressing team. I think Alvarez gets a minimum of 30 minutes if he's benched, but I also think it's more likely he gets kind of 80 minutes personally. So in terms of like Foden, I do agree. He's played lots. He plays lots of minutes. He wasn't as good last night, I don't think, as he has been, but I think he was playing slightly outside of where he has been playing. So again, there's no way I'm selling Solanke or Watkins, and I just can't see myself selling Alvarez for Haaland because I just don't see a massive upside. I agree with you, Bakar, on captaincy. I think if you are going to captain Haaland, then I think it is worth it. But if you're not, I just can't see that as I see it as a very, very sideways transfer this week. In the future, it won't be, right? When Haaland gets up to speed, he's the main man, right? But one, I don't think it's an easy fixture. I can't see Man City going to Brentford and winning 3 or 4, and scoring 2 or 4 personally. I think it'd be like 2-1, maybe something like that. But yeah, I just can't. I can't see it. I think Alvarez will get significant minutes in that fixture still.
Yeah, I agree with you to the extent that I don't see City winning by a huge margin. It's going to be a close game, and I don't think Haaland will smash it. I think he'll get a goal, which is why I'm not exactly sure about the captaincy. As mentioned earlier, I think it's very close between the 3 forwards. But on the flip side, when I come to your team and your argument on Alvarez versus Haaland, is it a transfer you'll be making, let's say, next week? I assume yes, right? If you're getting Haaland next week, why not get him in now? Who would you rather have this week? Would you rather have 65 minutes of Haaland, or would you have 80 minutes of Alvarez, or let's say 90 minutes of Alvarez, where
I'd rather in isolation,
where 60 minutes he's playing?
But I'd rather know the outcome of that replay and have 2 free transfers for game week 24, and the possibility of getting both Salah and Haaland in with those 2 free transfers for game week 24 if they're both playing, because that I can afford them with those 2 moves and the money I have in the bank without any hits. And I value that over the kind, as Fergie says it, that kind of sideways move from Alvarez to Haaland. So just in isolation, the answer is Haaland. But because of the role, to me, it's worth waiting.
I also think
does that make sense?
How many times does the landscape change very quickly? If before next game week, not 23 now, before 24, Solanke has to play twice, Watkins has to play. If one of them gets a knock or gets in, actually Watkins is playing twice as well because he's playing in the FA Cup replay. So both those players have to play twice before game week 24. Now, one of them could get a knock, which makes a decision for you. And I say this a lot before certain things. You know when Salah went to AFCON, I remember saying, you don't know what's going to happen to Salah in AFCON, so there's no point holding on to him, was my opinion at the time. Now, obviously, I couldn't predict he was going to get an injury, right? But there was always a chance of an injury in football and in the Premier League. Doesn't matter how fit a player is. And I would rather, personally, I think Alvarez to Haaland decide with moves this week. Next week, if Watkins and Solanke and Alvarez are all fit, I've then got a decision to make of those 3. But if Solanke or Watkins gets injured in either of those games, or their minutes are reduced, or or something else, they get a red card, they get whatever else, it makes the decision easier for me. And I always think about that before making a shout.
And you know your 29 picture. To your point, about those 4 players, Bakar, that you've got playing in 29, or they're not playing in 29 based on that replay. So you've got 2 frees, you can sort it out. Well, you can sort some of it out.
I agree to a large extent, but my point is still more or less, you're basically banking on a Watkins or a Solanke injury to change your plans, because with whatever information we get before 24, I highly doubt that you'll sell them next week, especially when Solanke has Fulham and Watkins has a great run of fixtures before the 29 blank. So irrespective, I think with whatever information you get before 24, Alvarez will have to go either way, right? So even if you do end up saving the transfer this week, you'll end up using it next week. So why not use it this week if you think that Haaland is a better option? That's the counter argument.
Yeah, and I agree with our argument, but I think the way I play, again, I would rather sort of wait and have as much information as possible. I don't. That's playing preference, and this is why it's so good to have you on, Bakar, because we get these differences of playing style.
None of us is wrong here, because actually I've got no intention of using any of my chips before game week 30, apart from the triple captain. So I'm going to hold on to them and be strong for the 34 and the 37. I'm pretty, much made my mind up about that anyway. So that replay is really important to me. And because I've got a couple of Villa players, I could if it swings either way, I'm going to have maybe 1 or 2 players more for 29 than other people anyway, because I've got Martinez and stuff like that. So basically, I want to be able to play the long game, be strong at the end. I'm a long way behind anyway, and I'm looking to have whatever advantage for the running that I can. So I'm just playing the real long game and want that information.
Guys, while we're at this, so from our conversation, I sort of deduced that that all three of us don't think that Haaland is the best captaincy choice this week. I think he's worth bringing him in, but you guys think that Alvarez is likely worth keeping for Haaland, and rolling is better.
I think so. Well, we'll touch on captaincy next. Let's just kind of roll off first on other kind of players first. So, we've got Jota, Adebayo. Maybe that's a kind of hindsight move, but what a performance, and Tony as well is back with a bang. He's played twice since he's come back, 2 goals and an assist. If we don't do Alvarez to Haaland, just as an example, if we're not thinking of Haaland, are you guys thinking about anyone else at all with a or is it just fully focused on the doubles? Rich, what do you think?
Well, no, Tony makes a lot of sense. So just because of the navigation through Gameweek 29, he's still capable of scoring in tough games. He scored against Tottenham last night. Brentford were in that game, for a lot of the match. He's bang up for it. I mean, he's another example. He's got to get some fitness back. I think Haaland's going to take a couple of weeks before he's fully firing, which means I'll have him in for 25, but I'm not scared of not owning him this weekend. Tony's had a couple of games now. Their fixtures are tough, but if he plays 26, he doubles in 25, and he plays 29, he's worth 4 points to get him in.
He's fixture proof. His record against Man City, just that. Didn't he score 2 against them last year in 1 game? He's fixture proof, Tony. I'm convinced of it. He's on everything. He's a fantastic player. I thoroughly expect him to join a top 4 team or a top 6 team in the next year or two, and be one of the most lethal Premier League strikers that we kind of maybe ever seen. Age dependent, obviously, but he's a wonderful player. He really is, and I agree with that. Bakar, have you got your eye on anyone else in the short term?
I think if I'm buying someone, I think Darwin could be in the conversation for 24. Especially if Liverpool have the double. I think Darwin versus Tony is going to be a very compelling conversation in Game Week 25. In Game Week 24, actually. The thing with Tony is that even though the fixtures aren't exactly great on paper, he is likely to have 2 extra fixtures as opposed to Darwin. That's the numerical thing that you've sort of got to weigh up, that in 26 and 29, Brentford are not blanking. Generally, I tend to go with the guy who has the higher number of fixtures, and sort of Tony sort of
guy that can't hit a barn door from 6 yards. Yeah.
But I mean, I think Watkins to Tony or Watkins to Darwin could be sort of popular next
you
week.
Could go Watkins
in
to Darwin to Tony, can't you? You could hokey cokey it, and then you'd get lots of games. A temporary ownership of Darwin for 25
exactly
sounds like a reasonable thing to do.
Exactly. That's
it was comedy last night. Absolute comedy watching.
I haven't got it in front of me, but wasn't it 11 shots? Hit the woodwork?
Record number of hits of the woodwork in any Premier League game by a single
4 times
player.
hit the foot. 4 times he hit the woodwork.
Times.
1 yellow card as well.
I knew he'd miss
1
that penalty.
miss.
I knew he'd miss it because Jota got the assist, and that would have been bonus for Jota with a goal and an assist. And but I knew as soon because McAllister picked the ball up, didn't he? And then I saw Darwin step up. I said, "He's going to miss this. He's going to." He did.
Jamie Hayes in the chat. He couldn't hit a barn door, but he'll hit the door hinge. That's about right for Darwin, and he's such a raw talent. And when it comes together, I don't remember I don't really compare him to Salah, but one of the reasons Salah in his first kind of 1 or 2 seasons back, one of the reasons why he was so poor on bonus is because do you remember he used to score a goal or a goal and sit, whatever it was, but he used to miss the target an awful lot. Do you remember? And it massively affected his bonus. But look, now he's really refined in. He's honed in. Wonderful player. I think Darwin. I'm not going to say that Darwin is going to be the next Salah, but I do think that Darwin is going to be a top forward in the coming years. Really is.
Well, he's getting. I mean, you could argue, and obviously his stats are amazing, but he's getting into the position to get the chances. You know,
Absolutely.
his positioning is great. His speed is unbelievable. He's got all these qualities, but he just is his conversion rate is absolutely shocking. It's something like, it's below 10%, isn't it? It's like 8% or something. It's absolutely shocking.
I mean, the
So-
only guy who sort of comes close to having Haaland-esque stats in the Premier League since Erling Haaland is Nunes. I mean, no one even comes close.
Yeah.
I mean, the same kind of chances fall to Haaland, the same kind of quality gets supplied to Nunes. The difference is the conversion rate. That's it. But still, I would rather, I mean, if he's just 8 million and has a double, I would just rather buy a ticket in the Darwin lottery and, you know, hope that
Very
he
much. I mean,
gets something at least.
Your 3 strikers for that week are, you know, there's 4 or 5 players you could go, 6 players you could go in those positions. So you could stick with the ones you've got, you know, the tried and tested, keep the value in them, they keep ticking over. They're both, you know, they're both doing well, Solanke and Watkins. But you could change them up as well. So it's going to be an incredible game week, really, for variance.
Darwin's XG in the last 3 game weeks is 1.71, 1.36, and 0.9. That is absolutely insane, isn't it? That is crazy. That's his XG in the last 3 game weeks. Okay, gents, you touched on actually, first, let's just have a look at predicted points for the next 4 game weeks. It's quite interesting. Haaland top, 28.1. Tony, we've mentioned, 27.5. Obviously, he's got the doubles. De Bruyne, 27.4. On Tuesday, Rich, we showed that Saka was predicted to score well, and we almost laughed ourselves just for him to come away with a 10-pointer on Tuesday night. He's so consistent, isn't he? You know, he kind of really hauls, but he's always got an assist or goal in him, and Foden 22.8, Bowen 22.6, Alvarez 22.6. A player who's interested in me, and I'm very jealous. I think both of you guys have got Gordon this week. He is interested in me. 6.1, home to Luton. Isaac probably won't play. He may even play as the forward. I think I'm not even sure he's going to. I might transfer him in this week. Because
people get rid of him
because their next 3 or 4 fixtures are so good as well, and he looks good. He's even returned in the games you don't expect him to. I really like him. He might be my transfer in this week. Watkins 20.8, Doku 20.7, Rodri, Jesus. But yeah, those top few are the ones we've been talking about. Captain this week, top on predicted points. Saka and Gordon are both top as it stands with 6 points. Tony 5.7, Tony and Boney. Bowen 5.6. Haaland 5.2. Now this is, we put Haaland's minutes down to 60 minutes. And this come out at 5.2. If you think Haaland is going to play 80 or 90 minutes, you can quickly work out the maths yourself, and and add 50% on top of that. Palmer 5.1, De Bruyne 5.1, Solanke 5.1, Jesus 5.1. The poll is wrong. Ignore the poll on the right. Apologies. But Bakar, you mentioned about captaincy. Who is your captain this week?
It's a tough one. I think it's going to be one of my forwards. At the moment, it's on Watkins, but I'm not confident. I think the main decision I have to make with my team, I think the transfer, I'm fairly settled on the transfer, I'm fairly settled on the bench order, but the one decision I'm not sure of, and which I'm sort of going to keep going back and forth, is going to be this one. I think Watkins and Solanke are incredibly close. Haaland, the thing with Haaland is that I think he'll play because of the fact that Brentford are a physical side and Pep will likely need him, but I just can't be sure that he's going to play more than 70, 75 minutes, and that's the trouble, because Brentford away isn't an easy fixture, and if Haaland is not getting more than 70, 75 minutes, then I'm not entirely sure whether he's the optimal captain. The optimal captain could be Watkins or Solanke, and I think I feel slightly more confident right now about those two as opposed to Haaland, and I'm just 1 or 2% leaning towards Watkins simply because the Sheffield United fixture.
Yeah, interesting. It's there's absolutely no right or wrong here, right? Rich?
I think for me, I've been playing with an 8 for weeks, and I've got a bench Foden, or I've got a bench Palmer at home to Wolves, I've got a bench Gordon at home to Luton. or Saka at home to Liverpool. I could bench any of them theoretically, but equally I could captain any of them. I'm talking about benching guys that are on penalties here, and it's really tough. But there isn't any standout. I might captain Alvarez again. I might just I might just go with it because it worked.
Bakar's taking him out.
I know. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Is the swing. I need a few variant swings in my favor, and I just think it's a week where I can give that a try. I just think rather than make a transfer, just have a punt on the captaincy. Chelsea were really, I know they could have had they could have had a couple of penalties and definitely should have had at least one last night. But apart from those shouts, they weren't very good, and I've got no confidence that they'll necessarily beat Wolves this week. So. Yeah, it's a toughie.
Who's it on right now?
Someone like good. Who's it bust on? I think it's on Alvarez. I think I've left it on there. Yeah,
I'm not
interesting.
Yeah. Mine's bust on Saka. Obviously on my team on Fantasy Football Hub because he's off predicted points. I don't have Gordon. If I bring Gordon in, I might. I don't know.
Well, he's going to play up front, according to the Newcastle fans. I've been asking on Twitter. Because I think he's going to go. Well, not false 9. He's going to play 9. So
if he plays against, if he starts. Well, he'll start, won't he? Anyway, but I like Gordon. I suppose my only thing is if they are missing, Isaac and Joe Linton, etc. But then they were fantastic against Villa.
He might not be. I don't think he might not be on pens. They might put like Guimaraes on pens or something like
maybe.
That.
But, I don't know. I need to give it more thought. But I'm a bit stumped at the moment. It's going to be between Saka, home to Liverpool. I know it's a tough fixture, but his stats are still
a lot of goals
right
in that
there.
Game. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in that game.
His stats are still up there, right? His stats are still really, really high. His underlying stats, his predicted points, his output is still reasonably high, right? He only needs one return for a decent return, but it's so open. I may go with a gut, and if I do bring in Gordon, I may go for Gordon. I don't know yet.
But when it's spread like this, you might want to play the EO game and just go for a player that's not highly owned.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's really not sticking out. So I've just bought Jota in. Others maybe still not be bringing Jota in because of the fixture. You're still only about 10% owned.
Yeah.
If you're looking to gain rank like me, because I'm down the field, just whack it on Jota. If he gets another couple, then
Rich, you're 2 points.
Days.
You're 2 points behind me now. Flipping heck, you know to make me feel good. Fergie is a punt. Game week 23 to 26. So this is left field shout for the next 4 weeks. It's very left field this week. I've gone retro, just so you know. But my last few punts have been pretty good. Michael Elise and Ivan Toney are punted before Toney came back. James Maddison, I think over the 4 weeks, I still think he'll do well in the next 2 or 3. I've gone retro. I've gone back to one of my old ones, and the reason is it took me about 20 minutes. I couldn't think of a differential. I couldn't think of one for the next 4 game weeks. But I've gone with an old favourite, just purely based on the fact that they've got injuries in their team. Their fixtures are fantastic. This player hasn't been fit, but he came back on this week and played really, really well. So I think he's going to start.
Oh, I think I know who it is. I haven't looked at the slides. He wasn't recently in the transfer market.
He was recently in the transfer market.
I think he was. I know who it is.
Who is it? I have no idea who this is.
Is it Almiron?
It's Miggy Almiron.
Yeah.
Like looking at the next 3 fixtures: Luton at home, Forest away, Bournemouth at home. If Isaac, no Isaac, no Wilson, no Joe Linton, or wherever else, Almiron is very likely to get significant minutes in those fixtures. And
yeah, it's not a bad shout.
I really struggled for a differential. I looked at Gordon's state. He was a differential to me because I don't own him, but he's like 20% owned, Gordon. But Almiron is 3% owned. And like I say, I'm not suggesting at all bring him in, but if you're looking for a differential, he could get a couple of returns
I've seen a few suggesting or looking to bring Trippier this week. While we're on the subject of Newcastle, it's not, although they haven't got a double and that'll put most people off. It's not a bad shout, is it? Given how he played
Absolutely
against
not.
Villa.
No, I think I think it's a good shout. They seem to have turned a corner recently. I think Newcastle, including the FA Cup game, I think they kept back-to-back clean sheets before the Villa game, where they were on course for a clean sheet as well. I think they've turned a bit of a corner. I was going to go for Fabian Schär until I realised he's quite highly owned. That was a bit of a boring
for
punt
about
as well.
27 weeks, and he never did anything for it.
Yeah,
So,
but
yeah, that hurt a bit. I always knew he had potential, but yeah.
So I fancy Newcastle for these next three, and this is why I'm tempted to get Gordon. But yeah, if you're looking for an Uber differential, someone who no one owns, go for Miggy Almiron. Let's have a quick look at our teams. Rich, I've got your team up on screen. What's your plans for the week?
Okay. Well, plan is to roll. I'm quite interested tonight to see if Maguire plays a part, only because I want to have a reserve defender. I'm a little bit worried that when Brighton got thrashed by Luton, Estupiñán was hoiked off at half time by De Zerbi. Obviously took some of the blame for the heavy defeat, but I've had a couple of people say, "Oh, it's probably just because he knew the game was gone and he was protecting him or resting him." But if Maguire is now out of favour, I've got no bench cover, so I want to roll the transfer basically and do what I say, which is to play the team I've got and have 2 free transfers next week. One of which I will eventually use on Haaland. I'm not going to go into 25 without him, but I'm quite happy to let him have another game to get up to speed before I buy him. And I want the ability to buy both Salah and Haaland relatively easily for the double game week. So I will roll transfer. It's either a roll this week or next week. So happy to do it this week.
Lovely stuff. Your AI recommend.
I think you have the bench.
Go on.
I think you have you've got the bench right. I think Foden over Jota is tricky, but I would possibly go with Foden in your case.
Oh, I think Fergie must have generated this picture for me. Yeah, I think I would have. What have you got me captain in there? What's it got? Has it just gone with the?
It's just on Saka and Gordon Vice at the moment.
It's on Saka.
It's based on predicted points.
I'll have to. Yeah, I'll probably go with Alvarez probably. But that's there we go. It's backing you up, Bakar. My recommended transfer is saying transfer Alvarez to Haaland. There we are.
That's the recommended.
Maguire's on the bench, by the way.
Oh, is he? Okay. Oh, dear.
Yeah, he's on the bench.
He'd be staying there, Rich. Sorry, buddy. He's one of those you've held on for so long. I think you've held on to Maguire, you've held on to Simicast through all through all their injuries. You'll be waiting for Winston Bogard to come back soon on your bench. The amount of time you keep players on your bloody bench. Alvarez to Haaland, it suggests, Rich, but as you can see by the difference in points, they're not massive, and that's just based on minutes at the moment. We've got Alvarez at 70, we've got Haaland at 60, but obviously I expect Haaland's to go up, kind of week on week. Haaland will probably go up to 70, 80, and then 90. Bakar, we've got your team on screen. It is auto after we've optimized it. If you haven't used Fantasy Football Hub My Team, just go on. Press optimize and it will order your team based on predicted points. It has told you to bench both Foden and Porro. What are your thoughts this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna bench Foden, I think, because I'm finding it very hard to bench any one of Solanke, let's say Haaland if I get him, Watkins, Richarlison, Gordon and Palmer. I think these guys are nailed in my team. I think the only one in consideration for the benching is Saka, apart from Foden, and I prefer Saka over Foden because of the penalties, because of the set pieces, because of the fact that Foden could be subbed early. Saka's a 90-minute man. We won't have any confirmation of the City lineup before Monday. So I'm playing Saka over Foden. I think the defense picks itself. I'm benching Saliba. I expect that to be a game where both teams score. I'm playing Trent over him. Gabriel plays for the goal threat as well. Porro plays because he was on set pieces. Yeah. Even against Brentford with Maddison back, he took 4 out of the 5 corners, and I think he's got good attacking threat. I'm not convinced about Spurs keeping a clean sheet at all, but I think I will just chance his attacking output over Saliba. I don't think Saliba's attacking output is the same when I compare him to the rest of the 3 defenders, and I don't think Arsenal will keep a clean sheet. So benching Saliba sort of makes sense. As mentioned earlier, my transfer is likely to be Alvarez to Haaland, but my captain is the one which I'm not sure of, and it could be any one of my 3 forwards, either Haaland, Watkins, or Solanke. At the moment, I'm on Watkins, but it could go either way.
Okay.
What do you think? We haven't mentioned him all pod. I don't own Trent anymore. What do you think about Connor Bradley and his potential to take minutes off Trent?
We're gonna have to.
I think
I'm gonna have to rush you, Bakar. Okay. I've got a dodgy wire on my computer and I'm running on red, so we might actually just cut off any second.
I mean, I just think Trent is likely to be fine. I'd probably worry about him in Game Week 26, if at all.
Cool. Torben says Rich still has Kevin Keegan on the bench.
Kevin Keegan. I always remember him falling off his bike in Superstars.
Your recommended transfer, Bakar, is to bench, interestingly enough, and your alternative Alvarez to Haaland as well. My team quickly got Dubravka, Porro, Trent, Estupinan, Saka, Bowen, Palmer, Foden, Alvarez, Watkins, and Solanke. I am considering upgrading Garnacho to Gordon. I haven't done the maths in terms of what this means in terms of getting Haaland back, but that's just my immediate thought. Gives me a bench. It gives me a benching headache. It's a problem, but I also really want Gordon his next 3, and I'm in this position where if you don't get him this week, I probably won't get him next week. I probably won't get him next week. So it's either get him in or don't. So I'm tempted to, but I need to give it a bit more thought. But yeah, that's my current team there. And my recommendation on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, my team is bank transfer for this week. And that is it for this week. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined. Thank you so much for those joining the chat, those going to watch it back, and those listening on the podcast versions. Your support, as usual, is very, very much appreciated. Rich, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter.
Lovely stuff. And Bakar, thank you so much for stepping in this week. Where can people get hold of you?
Thank you. Pleasure. At Big Man Bakar on Twitter and Instagram, BIGMANBAKAR.
And don't forget, you can get Bakar's, Rich's, and my own team reveals exclusively on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk pre-deadline every single game week. So don't miss out on that. My handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergie. This podcast and video will be in the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. Apologies for the rushed ending. Like I said, my wire, my normal laptop wire is broken, so I'm using a substitute one, but it's just keeping it alive rather than actually charging it, so I'm on the red. We will be back next week. I'll have a new wire by next week. Looking ahead to Game Week 24. In the meantime, we hope you have a great Game Week 23, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.